All right. Here we are. I'm very excited tonight, folks. Here with my man Jorge Rodriguez, hitting up another BlabberMouths 101 special. We're here with Mr. Johny Brown this evening, husband of the great Stephen Brown, who was nice enough to loan him out for the evening. Please, Mr. Brown, tell us a little bit about yourself before we get started.
All right. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I got 4 kids. Just not Zenith's adjustment. I got 4 kids. I work a fatherhood program, helping fathers stay in the lives of their children. Oh, that's somebody who's not muted, huh?
Yeah, we'll mute them. I'll go in. I'll mute everybody.
All right.
You can keep going. We took care of it.
Okay, yeah. So I work with fathers, helping fathers stay in the lives of their children. Take it down there. Stay in the lives of their children. And so that's what gets me into this circle process and restorative justice or nonviolent communication is how do you begin to bring these parties together when they don't agree. And when I do it with the husband and wife, I got to do it with the school system when you bring the father into the school. And so that's what gets me doing it in the school and the school to prison pipeline, because then when these men get involved, all of a sudden, it's a whole different product for women coming to school to see about their children. And when men come to school to see about their children, it's a little different. So you got to begin to create a way where communication is happening, where you're listening to each other and not blaming, and that you're trying to be, empathetic and compassionate when you do it. So anyway, so that's what I do on the most part. And I work with the court system too, trying to do the same thing with court mediation. The legal system is really interesting that all they interested in doing is enforcing laws and finding out how they can make more money. So that's always interesting to me, that we call it the justice system.
All right. Well, you've given us a ton right there. So let's start to unpack this. So your job is to bring dads into the school, to bring fathers, to bring male figures into the school, specifically the men. That's what you're focused on?
Right. Because once they get in general, the fathers come back in the lives of the children, and the children are, especially the little boys, they're misbehaving, right? So the only way you begin to correct that, to me, is to bring in the father, to have him begin to address the issue of what's going on with the son that's causing these not doing what he's supposed to do, acting out. And so they have to come in, understand the system, not just take their kid's side, but begin to understand the whole process of what's going on. And they have to deal with the crazy stuff too. But
how do you prep them for that?
I just try to, I was going to say corn liquor, but not. I talk to them about staying calm. And don't give out your first reaction, and understand that it's not a reflection on you. The people are hurt. They tired. Your child's been acting out for more than one time. And so you finally come in here and they're mad because you should have been here many days, many years ago. And so now you got to take that and understand they're just in pain, and then listen to how we can, bring the child back and get him together.
So how do they reach out to you? How do you get involved in this process?
Oh man, that's in general, the mother of the father calls me. That second marriage, that woman will call me. I partner with the courts. And when the child support case is going on, I sit and offer an alternative instead of locking guys up, to let them get into the program and see if we can work something out. Agencies call me. School system calls me when they guy's daughter got shot at school, right? Not at school. She got shot, some lover thing, and the dude killed her and then killed himself. So when they're trying to work with this guy, then they call me and ask me, hey, can you come and do what you do with him? And so that's how the process gets started. Somebody will hear about me, then they'll call me and ask me to come in and see if we can do something together.
So are you a private entity or do you work for a company?
No. Yeah, my company is Iron to Iron. Yeah, I forgot all about that. That show you how bad I am. Company is Iron to Iron. We re-engineer the hearts and minds of men. So it's a 501c3. For terms today, it's a social emotional learning based program. And so I work with the parents to try to get them to mature in those areas.
So now is your company local or is it regional or all over? Where are they?
It's local. I'll move around some. It's getting less than moving around, but I move around some. But I'm willing to go anywhere. It doesn't matter. I work with guys from different places. I think of the name of the organization. See, it's giving me a note.
Nice.
So how does
go ahead.
I was just going to ask, so how does the program work as far as like the actual, the system that if somebody is referred to you, they come to you, and then what happens? Like what is the next step as far as them becoming part of or joining your group per se?
The first thing is that we go through an intake process. I have a thing that's called an iron wheel of maturity. And we go through you explaining to me first you tell me what problem and issues you want addressed. And then we talk about your maturity level, physically, intellectually, spiritually, socially, emotionally, and then economically. So once I understand how you see yourself in those 6 areas, then we begin to apply that towards your problem. And
so how do you determine that? Is there some sort of a scale? Do you go off of some sort of philosophy? How do you go about determining that?
So yeah, I got a scale that I go through from 1 to 10. And once I talk with the father, he begins to explain where he's at. Like his story, when he tell his story, you'll hear it crystal clear what's going on. When they start saying they hate so-and-so, they can't stand their ex, I'm like, right. Okay, you gotta have an understanding that just because y'all had a disagreement, you have to move beyond that for the child. So if I hear you tell me you can't, you don't, you could kill her, then those are things that let me know, okay, yeah, socially you ain't got it together. In terms of a relationship, you still thinking like you did when you graduated from high school. I'm saying, bro, every relationship don't work out. You got to still love your kid. Tell me you getting mad because someone did something to hurt your feelings as a man. That I'm like, okay, we all hurt, but you got to move on, be the bigger person, and move in for trying to build the relationship. So that's when they tell me their story, that's where I hear the immaturity or the maturity level.
Yeah, because it reminds me of the stages of moral development, that Kohlberg philosophy of them, being at a stage and then having to kind of work their way to the next stage, until you get to a certain level of maturity. So do you kind of help them out and coach them through those stages, or how do you make them kind of learn from their mistakes and not repeat those?
Right, that's what we do. It's a life coaching process, and they take a 12-week class first. Then from there, like you said, then you start growing until you become. So we start with Iron Man, is the name of the program. So as you get in it, you ultimately become a man of steel, where you're able. Whoops, you telling me I gotta look at the thing. Where you're able to interact with other men and this person who you can't get along with. But you let the things that people say bounce off and you understand they're hurt. That's why they're trying to hurt you. They wasn't hurting. They would never say you don't listen or you don't do this or you don't do that. People just say those things because they hurt. And you have to be sensitive enough to say, wow, sounds like you're in a lot of pain. Sound like you're not listened to, you know, stuff like that. But they go through the process like that. And of course, money always helps everything. So the more they can pay their child support, do stuff like that, that always chills that out.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so your company gets a call from either the mom, the stepmom, whatever it is, saying, hey, we're having this issue. The school's been calling. I tried everything. I can't help. We need to bring the dad in. So you contact the dad, or does the dad contact you? How does that work? Is the dad receptive to you stepping into his life?
Some are, some aren't. Most of the time, though, what happens, so before they tell their story, I tell mine. So I tell them, look, my child was out of my child's life. Her mother didn't want me involved. She had issues in school. I had to go up, meet the principal. The teachers didn't want me there, didn't receive me warmly. And then as I tell them the story, that ultimately I had to get custody and bring her into my house, they relate to that. And so that's what makes them say, oh, okay, you're not just some dude who think he got all the answers. You doing it. And I tell them, man, I'm still dealing with it. And so then that lets them know, okay, Johny, I'm willing to trust you if that's it. If you got hurt and you've been through it, then I'm willing to trust you for it.
Yeah, I mean, when you're relatable and they see you're not just some outsider do-gooder trying to help out, but you've been there and done that, I definitely think that would make me more open to be receptive to what you had to say.
Yeah,
Now,
and if I could just add a little something, I really feel like the more I learn about restorative justice is that trust factor is really at the heart of all that's going on. So if that trust isn't there, then they'll never make those breakthroughs with you. And you really have to trust in you and in the system in order to kind of break through those barriers.
That's right. And with that trust, see, that's the other thing, right? So I always believe that given the opportunity, that person or that guy, I'm normally working with men, they want to be better. They want to go through those stages. If they didn't, we would never connect. And so if they listen to me for 5 seconds, I know, man, you just acting out. You really want to be there for your child. Or when was it? Last week, Thursday, a father couldn't find his daughter. Well, the school called him and told him his daughter wasn't at school. He was like, what? I know I sent her to school this morning. So he comes up to the school, but this guy is thugged out, tattoos, he's an older person. And so he's trying, but he doesn't know how to, when he's talking to the lady at the front, he says, you lost my daughter. Where's my daughter? So when you do stuff like that, police start coming in, all that stuff. And I'm like, man, this guy isn't a threat to anybody. He wants to know where his daughter is. So we go to the classroom where she's supposed to be. And he calls his daughter and says, hey, where you at? She says, I'm in class. He said, well, let me speak to Mr. Brown and you in class. And she, she can't. He passed the phone over. And then all of a sudden she like, I'll be there in 1 minute. And so I'm like, yes, this is how easy this could work. Then all the other kids in the classroom, right? So they don't like her father. Oh, excuse me. They don't like her father because he's still, he a thug. He's still going through the process. He's a little rough on her about not being in class. But once he leaves, the kids say, wow, I wish my dad would come up to the school to check on me.
Well, that brings up the whole point of learning school It's a whole different world. I mean, I'm an educator, and I know the terminology for the most part of what goes on. And I still roll into the teachers' meetings or IEPs for my kid, and I'm sitting there, and it's daunting. You have 10 other people sitting there staring at you. Sometimes they're throwing stuff out at you that you go, what does that mean? Can you put it in layman's terms for me? How do you address that with the people that you work with?
Man, that just like you said. So I have a sheet because, like you said, I don't know. They'll throw out these initials. You be like, what? And then you can sign your kid up for all type of stuff because you think the educator knows what's best. And until we slow it down and say, hey, well, what does this mean? What's the implications? And again, if you think in that trust thing, if you're saying my child can't, then we're violating that trust. When you say they can't, they won't, I'm like, man, we got to believe they can and that we can work it out. Oh, look, thank you, Mom. And then we get something to work the process. And we bring in it's not just me either. I'll bring in any collaborative partners from the community that I can. One of the problems is that there's two governments, right? So you got the government with Trump running everything that he's doing. Then you got the government that's in your community that if it's a gang-infested community, they call shots. And so we can try and pretend like that's not the case. But when we don't invite them to the table, see, I'm saying, oh man, you could have fights in your school every day. But you could bring one of them to the table and they'll squash it in one day. And they'll make it a zone and there won't be no more fights. Just on their word. But if you don't reach out, if you think they dumb or all they want to do is sell dope in your school, then you'll never get the conversation. In terms of the restorative justice, how do we get this to fix the community, heal the hurt, harm in it? That it's old teachers at the school who taught those dudes. And some of them were bad teachers then, and some of them were good teachers who really loved those dudes when they were there. And they remember that wow, this teacher, she really tried to reach me. It's just I wasn't mature enough to hear it.
So have you had to go out and say, listen, who do I need to talk to? Who am I supposed to bring to the table? Who's the man around here that I need to talk to get this done and say, hey, let the school be and what can we do to make it work?
Yep. Every time I got to go out into the community and find out whatever, if it's a different school, who is it? What's the groups? Going out to find, when they're selling, who's out there, all of that. Because it could be a conflict. Oh, good job. Zena just told me to say culture. That's right. That's right. So I got to go and explore that to find out, because the kid, what if I'm talking to a kid who looks like a nice kid, but his uncle is the leader of something, or his brother. And so on the surface, he could be a nice kid, but he's having all this conflict. But if you don't find out who he really is or who he's related to, all that, I'm going to give you whatever sort of reward points mean nothing to him. And he's playing games with you when he try to act like you don't have to go to detention, or you don't have to do this, or I'm gonna give you these $1. You're like, right, you're right. Okay, no, that's not gonna work. Oh, you said don't say no more. But anyway, yeah. So you got to go out, find the culture, find out who it is in the community that will help, and who else is trusted in the community to help deal with the situation. So people need literacy. Down here in Atlanta, we have to struggle with that a lot. Where the parents went to the school, they can't read, and they've graduated, they graduated, working a job, and they can't read. And so they're going to be embarrassed to come up.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that because, like I said, it's hard for me, and I consider myself to know the system pretty well. I can imagine being outside the system, going in and trying to navigate. Jorge, you got something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, and that's part of the problem is when you have this sort of a system in the school system that you try to be inclusive and you try to have these kids understand their moral development, and then they go out into the community that might not be as accepting, and it's full of people with their own self-interest in mind. And how do you grow in a community where those types of things aren't valued? And how do you make students understand that in order to achieve their potential, they have to grow, they have to keep on growing regardless of what their community looks like?
Right. And see, if you go like that's it. So when that culture outside the school won't support what's going on in the school,
right,
all it takes is one teacher to go into that community. See, all it takes is one. If I can do it, if I can go in the community, so I'm out of school, they're having fights every day, cafeteria, people won't do what they're supposed to do, kids don't care. I go into the community, get the guys that sell dope, right, and bring them into the school. And they stand around in the cafeteria up against the walls. They don't have no fights. So when the principal tells those guys, wow, I really appreciate it, you coming in here and helping do this. And all we do is feed them with some hot wings and French fries or butterfly the hot dogs, fry them, potatoes, some Kool-Aid. Hey, that's it. Then the kid, the dude that's selling, respect the fact that the principal did whatever to say, hey, thank you for coming in.
So in part, it's almost like educating those people in the community as well as to what your efforts are to grow the community. Yeah. So you not only have to educate the students, but you also have to educate, the guy selling drugs on the corner.
Man, now, absolutely. And then, the guy on the corner selling the drugs is the way he is because the school didn't educate. See, I'm saying if the school would have been doing the job from the beginning, this kid would have had hopes and dreams. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. How many times you talk to people where somebody in the system told you couldn't do it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, that could easily be rectified by us just understanding. Man, everybody got a dream. Everybody's important. And you have a right to fulfill that dream. And my job is to help you get it done. And that's all that, teachers are there to do that. But when you think they're not, of course I'm going to have a hard time for the rest of my school career if I'm fighting the person who's trying to help me climb the stages of development. But if you don't have that clear in your head, then you'll begin to argue with somebody who is hurting instead of asking, man, why? What's going on? What's causing this? Tell me your story. So how did you and him begin to fight? How did you begin to start acting out in school? Because if I don't know the story, then I'm a guess then. But yeah, that's how the circle works.
No, you're good. Keep going.
Yeah, that's how the circles work, that the whole restorative justice process is just one circle aspect. See, the circle is supposed to be working in our community all the time, but we don't do that because our community is a dominant base. So the whole key is how much can I dominate? And violence and punishment is fun. They teach us to make it fun and exciting, and that's what we love to do. And I love watching old black and white movies It's hilarious to me watching them, how fast they'll hit a woman and she won't do what they say, they'll hit her again. I'm like, man, if this has been going on for all this time, that's how it becomes, violence becomes enjoyable. And so we don't recognize it, but every time we watch a superhero show, man, that's the best part. When the Avengers go wild, oh yeah, that's it. The Hulk can do what he want to do, smash, oh yeah, yeah. So I said, right, so you enjoy that and it's fun. And then in the back of your head, you want to be a superhero. So now you having that, I told him to do what I said he's not doing. I told him to do it, he's not doing it. Now I'm going to show him that he should do it. And I'm like, no. Why are they not listening? And not that it's easy, man. How many times I don't do it. But I'm just saying, I got to know that when I don't, okay, Johnny, yes, it's a part of you that felt good. But the other half of you knows that you're damaging your relationship with your children or with your wife or with your friend. These are people who are valuable to you.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, you started getting into restorative justice now. So can you talk to us? Pretend that I'm a dummy, which might not be hard for a lot of people watching or listening right now. Tell me from the beginning, what is restorative justice? And then get into a little bit of what does it look like? How do you use it to solve problems? And why do you think it's beneficial?
Okay. So the restorative justice is one type of circle. So a restorative justice circle is where you come in with a problem and we try to listen to both sides and to help you begin to talk about how it's hurt both sides, not the person who committed the act and the victim was hurt. And you try to discuss personal responsibility and then the community's responsibility. How do you keep that together to solve the problem? Like when we talk about, so in the world of punishment, when I do something wrong, what you want to hear me say is, well, I'm sorry that I did, blah, 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 blah. So when you do that, you beat me down, right? So in a restorative circle, you talk about how can y'all move from this point? Can you, once you understand it, can y'all begin to treat each other with love and respect?
So how does the person that did the action, how are they harmed? How do you bring them to see that they harm themselves as well as someone else by their actions?
Oh, when we begin to talk to them about what it is, so they're being, whatever they're doing, they're committing this crime, and what are their issues? Why are you committing the crime? What led to this? So if you are in a family that bullying and stuff has been perpetuated, right? Somebody bullying you at home. So you come to school and take it out on them. So when I get you to talk about the hurt that you see is being inflicted on this other person, you eventually say, so what? That happens to me all the time. And then it's not so what, it's wow, it sounds like you're in pain. It sounds like you feel, I mean, you can guess then, you feel less than a person. You feel like you don't have a role or a part in our community. That you just a wasted sperm. Not a wasted sperm, but a sperm that's put into somebody that don't have no value. And so once you start to think that way, well, yes, okay, if that's how I'm really feeling inside, then I'm going to show you that I can't come to school hurt like that. So I'm going to do whatever I got to do to buck up. And if that's putting down somebody smaller than me or whatever, then that's what I do. And so they begin to change. Now, let me back up though. Now, restorative circle, in my opinion, so you just get through with a fight, you don't go into a restorative circle, right?
Yeah, you're still heated.
Yeah, you got to give them time to calm down and train them on, hey, this is this process that we're going to use to try to deal with this instead of just suspension. We want you to begin. You need to go someplace, calm down. We're going to explain what this circle time is for. And then you can come in. And people are going to come in there who you respect. So your grandmother's in there. So you're not just, wow, I want to know somebody who you respect in the community, because I could bring you in the circle and you could say, this is just an opportunity for you to get that dude because he got the best of you last time. But if I got somebody there who you respect, you're not going to do that because we already agreed before we came in how we were going to conduct ourselves. So it starts out creating that community though. Now, when you're not creating, a restorative circle is just to do that, restore the harm. But there are circles of support. So how do I begin to show that this is a family, this is a community that you coming in? We huddle up in the circle. I need to check in with you every day, find out how you doing, and what's your family life, y'all eating, did you have breakfast, all that stuff on a daily basis, so you know I care about you. I can't just throw you in a circle. But the other day, I was telling you, I was out of school and the teacher told girl that you a hood rat and your mother was a hood rat when she came through. That's all you're gonna ever be. And so I'm like, so when the little girl, this was in middle school, right? So this was a middle school girl who looked like a grown woman. So she fired back at the teacher and said, I bet you was lonely for Valentine's Day. So, and you know the teacher loses it. So I'm like, right, you shouldn't have played that game.
You put her in the corner. What'd you expect?
That's right, but you played in. So now she fires back. She done touched some chord in you. And now, you getting out of here. You going to the office. So the girl's like, yeah, this is your round. I have to leave and go to the office. But this could have, don't do it. Don't fall into their tricks. When they act out, they act out because they hurt. And that's it. I said, sure. And are they going, they're not going to tell you at the first time. But every time you begin to respond to them with empathy, it ultimately breaks them down. Restorative circles, and any of the whole compassionate communication stuff, once we begin to implement that and try to create this world of mutual love and respect, man, it's nothing that can tear down. It's just the more that we interact, because I'm going to be breaking chipping away at that false image that you put up of who you are. And so every time, the more I spend time with you, the more I see through. Wow. I didn't see this last time. But I see you really are insecure about your ability to read. Now I see that I remember it happened to me. I was in the 10th grade and I'm acting out in the 10th grade because all through junior high, I'd never learned how to read. So the way I got out of it was to act out. When they had you go around and read them little magazines, paragraphs. So before it comes to me, I act out. And Miss Jones called me to the front and said, Mr. Brown, obviously, you have a problem with reading. And I'm not going to embarrass you right now. And she's talking to me one-on-one. We'll meet after class. So when I have to meet her after class, she then tells me to come back after school. So when we had that conversation, I go back outside. My boys ask me, man, what's going on? I said, oh, man, she liked me. That's all. And so we meet every day, reading. Miss Jones works it out so I didn't have to carry school books. So I was like, Miss Jones, all this, man, that'll ruin your image. We got them heavy backpacks, trying to go back and no. So she got me a set of books at home, and I had a set in my locker. And so for that alone, I was like, oh, studying can be cool if I ain't got to carry these books around with me all the time. And so that did the trick for me, changed my whole direction. And by the time I was in the 12th grade, school was important. And so that type of respect can change a person real quick. But it's hard. I'm not saying it's easy, but to get those circles going as soon as you can, to have a person who is sensitive, that's how you create. So restorative circles need to have a standard for what the outcome is going to be, right? So when you do that, then when you start dealing with these students, that's it. So you get this thing on this student, they this, they that. Now with restorative circles in process, how are we gonna change what in these students? Now you got me thinking, how do I do that instead of you ready to be a problem just like you was, or just like your brother was, or how are we gonna change it? And at the end of the month or week, we got an evaluation process. So wow, we're saying that if we love and trust and talk to them, it's gonna make a difference. Well, is it? Who's good at this? Who's the one that could connect with that student? Let's get them in. And having, I mean, I got some bias. Some kids respond better, males to women. But I like it when it's male to male. But because I think that just like I'm a sucker for my daughters. So, they tell you whatever, and the mom would be like, you better do it. And you on the other side, don't worry about it. You got it. We gonna take it. I'm like, right. No, that's not gonna work. So when it's male to male, then you right away say, oh no, I know you need to stand up. I know you need to do this. You have the ability. I believe you can. So that's the restorative circles work like that. The more you come in and connect with them and are empathetic so they see your connection, then that's how they respond to change. And that's what makes the kid who beat up some kids start saying, man, I got drug issues, my mother's on dope. Something gotta happen to make them say, let me tell you why I'm so violent. Because they're not, every little kid comes to school and they little excited. You see it all the time where they wanna learn and all of that. If I go into an elementary school, it takes 5 minutes for them kids to start saying, that's my daddy. So I know they want it. And so it's us giving it to them and connecting with them. Yeah, you said that's enough. Zim told me I did enough.
Well, I mean, you bring up a lot of good points. The power struggle is something I try to stay away from all the time. And even when I know it's coming and I can see it, sometimes I just can't avoid it. It's going to be you and I. And then when I forget that, hey, I'm in a power struggle with a 10-year-old kid. Like, what am I doing here? I'm a grown man, and I'm getting heated over something a 10-year-old kid's doing, not personally to me, but because whatever's going on in their world. So you raise a lot of good points about the power struggle, which, like I said, I try to avoid, and I do know, and I don't want to be like, you're going to have to go to the office, or I'm going to give you this consequence, because it only works so many times before they start going, forget your consequence. Or, hey.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, it's great because, I learned about restorative justice, not too long ago, and I started implementing those restorative justice circles in my class. So when the kids come in, we do kind of like a community building type restorative justice circle where we talk about, what makes you happy, or, I try to tie it into a lesson every now and then. And what I have found is that it has helped me see these kids in a different light. Because the other day we talked about what a happy moment in your life. And I shared a moment in my life where, when I was a kid and, we had these alley cats that we took care of. And, I gave them a personal story about my life and how this one little cat, showed us her babies when she had babies. And it was a moment in my life that stood out, that was a happy moment, And so I shared a little personal part of my life. And then when we went around the circle, a little girl was talking about her that they celebrated her adoption day, and that was a really happy moment in her life. You know, that she got adopted, she has this new family, and nobody in that circle, nobody in that class knew that little girl was adopted. I didn't even know she was adopted. And so now I know that, you know, there's these certain insecurities that she might have because of what was going on in her life in the past, you know, and we have to be respectful to those. And I can see her in a different light, and I think the other students can kind of see her in a different light as well. So it brings this like common humanity where kids are looking at each other and sharing these personal stories and just little tidbits. It's nothing big, it's nothing, you know, profound, but these little tidbits. And a kid, and you'll see the kid say, "Wow, I didn't know that about you," you know. And hopefully with time they can start seeing the similarities and not just the differences.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, we got a question. We got a question from the crowd out here. It said, how do you go about implementing a restorative justice program when your school is not buying into it, where you're the island, you see the value, but the school's not buying it? What do you do then? How do you go about that?
So yeah, that classroom begins to create that culture. Especially, so if you have a classroom where, you know, you have some students who the whole school knows acts out, right? So just like you said, when you do that restorative circle and somebody shares about, so dudes, they dog die, right? That pit bull, Rottweiler, whatever type of dog they got. That dog died, they crying like it's family member. Yeah, so I won't name no name. They cry like it's a family member. So they share that in that restorative circle, and you don't blow that off, and you say, wow, I bet that was hard. I could see that you are really grieved. You must have really loved that dog. Right? So you share that with them one time in your classroom, I guarantee you, that kid is gonna go, because the kids who act out, they hang out with other kids who act out. So they gonna right away say, Mr. Rodriguez listens, Mr. Rodriguez understands. And what's gonna happen is the kids who act out in the school, they gonna come to your door and say, hey, can we come in your class? We wanna be here. And so once you start developing the culture, even if the rest of the school don't want to, you start creating it in your room and telling them, look, we're all in this together. It's not, I'm the teacher, I'm running things. Sure, it's stuff we got to cover. Now, we can't come in here and play cards all day, no. But there are leniencies that can happen. And we can discuss, if you behave, listen, do what I say in terms of following instructions, man, there's a whole lot we could do. There's a whole lot of places we could go if I could trust that when we go out in public. So you got all that rewards on the back end, but once you started in the classroom where they come in and do that check-in circle, where they talk about, tell me something that's somebody you love. Somebody who is someone that you respect, that you would die for. The kids know it. Tell me something that's wrong. So one day I went in and said, I was talking to some homeless people, and I had a big box of Fruit Loops, right? I said, man, this homeless family, some kid, little girl, little boy, they tell me they need some food. And I was carrying home this box of Fruit Loops, and man, it was just so nasty. I poured the Fruit Loops right there on the ground. Man, them kids was cussing me out. Man, why would you do that? How could you do that to the poor? Da-da-da-da-da. All this conversation about why would you disrespect somebody who's homeless and needs your help. So then I showed them 50 grand stacks of $10,000. I said, well, how much money y'all think this is? They was guessing all around. And Told them what it was, 50 grand. They said, wow, you ready to give us 50 grand? I said, no, I want you to know that every teacher that you talk to, they spent 50 grand getting educated so they could come in here and work with you. But you spit on it. You pour their Fruit Loops out every day.
Wow.
So what do we do to stop pouring out each other's Fruit Loops? I don't want to pour no Fruit Loops out. Your Fruit Loops out. I don't want you pouring mine out.
Wow.
And I mean, that I love it. I've told Jorge this before. When you can take an abstract concept and turn it concrete so they can wrap their heads around it. And I have a quick one about, I tell them about cookies, about wasting time. Would you take a cookie and throw it in the garbage? No. So why do you do that with the most precious thing in your life, which is time? And they kind of wrap their head around. I love that when they can go, oh, wow. And then suddenly when it comes up again, what are you doing right now, my man?
Yeah.
Dumping out Fruit Loops.
There you go.
I like that. All right, let's switch gears a little bit to the PBIS. You alluded to it earlier. Jorge is a PBIS master over here. So tell us your thoughts on PBIS. Where do you see the downfall, or where they're missing the boat a little bit there?
Wow, that's so hard because I don't like PBIS. It's a reward system that's not relevant. So I don't like it because sure, if I'm little, you could get me. If I'm still naive and stuff, but I think that it's when you get me to change, or you think you get me to change because you've given me money or whatever reward it is, you're not changing my heart. And so I'm saying, why waste time doing that when you could be connecting with me as a person and my culture and get me to change because I love you and respect you? And so that's my only problem with it. Ain't nothing wrong with giving reward. Hey, man, the more money you got, the more you can spread it, the better. But, you can buy them pizza or whatever, and the next minute they throwing it across the room. And so, yeah, I prefer to connect with their heart and see what we can do to change from there versus these little rewards. But if that's all you got, then you got to work with what you got.
I want to clarify. I think Justin was joking there because we had this conversation before where I read a book called Drive by Daniel Pink, and in there he talks about motivation, and motivation 1.0 being connected to punishment. So do this or else. And motivation 2.0 being just that, a reward system. So you do this, I'll give you this. And it's been shown in many studies that the focus, like you said, turns on the object rather than why you're doing it. And so I'm a big why guy. Like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? What is the purpose behind it? And according to the book, Motivation 3.0 is about autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So when those are connected to the things that they're doing, and that autonomy is there, and the purpose is there, and the ability to master that activity or what they're learning is there, then the motivation skyrockets. So now it's not an intrinsic motivation; it's all intrinsic.
Yeah, man, that's it. And then we could do that. How many dudes have I seen change when they meet this girl? They change all this crazy. They'll stop hanging out with dudes. They change everything they do because they meet somebody. And don't let them, man, the kid. I mean, I don't know. So like I said, I'm a sucker for my daughters. I love my kids. So I said, man, I'll do whatever for them. And so once you connect with that, you got it. And them questions, that's what I like, the circle up process. When you ignore that, let me give you a reward, but I began to ask those thought-provoking questions. Like, hey man, what's happy for you? What's sad for you? they're not going to know. Some may. What you want to do? What do you want to be? When did you stop liking school? Those are things that nobody ever talks to them about. And so once you bring it up, and you got all the counselors and all the support in school to help deal with that, but we go to reward and punishment. But again, that's what we taught. So unless we learn something different, that's what we do. If we don't read a book or develop a different type of viewpoint, it'll always be that. How do I control you? If I stand over my kids to make a point, right, I'm trying to control them. And then I got to, you will do what I'm saying. No, that's because I'm losing control or belief that they would do right because they love me. And I'm their dad. So I got to do that with the people in my community. Do I love them? No, they get on your nerves. And you sometimes got to walk away. But in your heart, it's got to be your desire to come back and say, hey, man, I want to connect. I wasn't there when you was talking to me earlier. Okay, let me hear this. Let me listen to you. Let me be empathetic and try to reach and see what I can do. Maybe I can help you. Maybe I can't. What happens if I just listen and understand? That is hard.
All right, so you said you work with the judicial system, the justice system out there.
Yeah.
We hear a lot about this school to prison pipeline. What, in your view, what is that? And how is the school system contributing to this? And what should we be looking at as a teacher, as an educator, to stop this?
Wow. Okay. So when, as a school, we can decide that this child is going to do something with their life or they're not going to do something with their life, right? So when we can make that decision in kindergarten. And so to me, that's the school to prison pipeline. That you go to school and you get this categorized and you don't know why or how it happened. And next thing you know, you keep fulfilling that self-fulfilling prophecy. So the school system has to look at, how am I evaluating? If everything is on a standard base. So if I say that this kid is a bad kid, what's my standard for changing it? We got standards for increasing the punishment. The next time you do this, you're going to get this and that. That's what we have to make sure we look out for. Why can't we say, wow, this child is first grade, this kid is acting out. What's going on? Let's explore it. Instead of it being, we meet, please. They had what's those meetings called? Them IEP meetings and the parents ain't even there. They'll have it, run it down, and then bam, it's on the kid. And the parent has no clue. But because it's the teacher who they know or trust tell them in it, they go with it. Oh, wow, you think that? I done seen parents say, you think that's the best? Then let's do it. And so those are the things we got to look out for, because we would never do that to our kid, right? If my kid got the behavior issue, my kid will transfer to every school in that system until I find somebody who can work with my kid. And I'm saying that's what's supposed to happen. How do we educate them? Because that's what we're here to do. And how we could, but if we not, we need to make sure the educator is connecting with the student and got high expectations for them. I gotta love them and care about the kids I'm working with. And when they are stinky and dirty or they act out, I gotta go the next mile. wow, why is this? Maybe I need to go to their house and see. Because you go to some houses and I'm like, oh yeah, bruh. So that you don't say nothing, but you walk in the house and you're like, oh yeah, this would be rough right here. And now I got more compassion. And that child knows. I was working out one time and the gym was right next door to the projects, right? So I'm working out. My car won't start when it comes time to leave, but it's nighttime and we've been in there talking smack, you know, after you finish swimming. So it's dark. So when I come out, my car won't start. Everybody walks by me and say, wow, your car won't start. Man, I hope you get it together. Boom, and they leave. So in seconds, the parking lot is empty. And I'm the only one in the parking lot. My hood is up. And the project, you know, like every project, so to get to the gym, it's a hole in the fence for the people who live in the projects. So I'm over there and I look up and I see some dudes walking towards me. And I'm like, dang, I don't have time for this. Know what's going to happen. So they come in and I'm looking at them. I'm like, Lord, I'm old too. So I'm like, man, what am I getting ready to do? From the back of the crowd, some little kids say, Mr. Brown. So I'm trying to look to see who it is. And it's a kid who I work with. He an adult now. Or, you know, he a big, he's a kid, 19, 20, whatever. He said, what you doing over here? Don't you know what this neighborhood is? So I'm like, of course I do. My car broke down. She was like, yeah, you almost got it. You over here playing around with your car up like this. I said, so how come you ain't just leave your car when all the rest of the people left? I said, it's my car. Why would I leave mine? Yeah, okay. What I would suggest you do is get out of here. These guys they're not gonna listen to me forever. But just because I tell them you cool, that may hold them off for a minute. And so that kid had to look to me that way. And I'm saying that's what we got to do when they come in. So when they come into the school setting, as an educator, I have to be looking to rescue them and to help them out. And that's what that guy did for me that night. And so, you know, he ended up, he was a twin. And his other twin committed a crime but gave the wrong name, right? So he needed the one that's in prison and jail to get bailed out immediately before them prints come back. So when he called, hey, Mr. Brown, could you run me down to the prison? I said, man, I ain't got no money. Hey, I need to bail my brother out right away before they find out who he is. Oh, no, I can't do that. That's against my standards. No. And I'll be there in a minute. Let me run you down to bail him out. And I'm just saying, yes, if I can help you out, you help me out. Hey, so you said that's it, Zena, yes.
Do you see the education system as running parallel to the penal system? Do you see the consequences and judgments setting them up for future failure? And how does the judicial system push into the school? So I think that's what we're worried about, is that they enter as children, like these, like you said, these bright-eyed kids. Yay, we get to run around, we get to be with other kids. They hit that later elementary, early middle school. Suddenly, everything else becomes more important. And somewhere along the lines, the judicial system gets involved. How is that happening?
So here in Atlanta, they have resource officers, right? Do y'all have them up there?
I know what you're talking about. We don't have them too much, but yeah,
okay.
I saw the one who beat the hell out of the kid on the news.
That's right. So every school down here got them. When I was I'm from Ohio, they used to have security guards. So what happens is we started to teach them that, right? So when they you trying to talk them down and you won't do it. I mean, it don't matter. It don't have to be a security. I was talking earlier about the gym teacher. They call the gym teacher in, right? They can't get the kid to calm down. And the gym teacher walks over and says, hey, boy, you better sit down, be quiet. And this, then they know then, oh, okay. Either they hush and respect or they keep doing it and then more guys come in. And I'm saying we create the environment to where we don't talk them down. We don't put the time in. Here, like I said, it's all the resource officers. You could have a balloon fight in school, and if it don't stop, you could find yourself in jail. So I'm saying that's when you're willing to do something like that. Now that's not going on, right? So the north side of town is the more wealthier side. So they could toilet paper the school. They could do all those little things they do. Don't know police come, it won't happen. And so you got to begin to look at why we do that differently in different sections of the city. But it's a clear thing with grades, with pushing people on. And I'm not saying this now. I'm not saying every kid goes to prison because of school. But I'm saying if I go to school and I make you mad and I get suspended and I get 3 days out of school, right? I'm not telling my dad because he whoops my ass. Now I'm getting ready to be roaming the street for 3 days. Oh, baby. That's opportunity for all type of things to happen. And we know that when we push them out. And we're the ones who got to stop doing that. We got to, man. I don't know what it's like other places. It's bad here. So if you are in special ed, it's a holding tank. That's it. And so these kids aren't developing, aren't growing. So what happens when you are special ed and you're getting bigger, but you can't read, you don't know what to do, you're not getting real education. I can't read. I want to be cool. I want to dress nice, but I can't even talk right. So now, man, robbing or stealing when I could have went through a speech class or whatever, if someone would have just took the time to identify the problem. And like I said, those are the things that's on the nice side of it. But the other side, like I said, the hard thing is when the school is set up where they don't want to help. And people there just try, hey, man, I got 5 years to retirement. I don't want to hear that. Hey, I don't got no time. I don't care about that. And they going to push. Every time you do, you break, you yelled at me, you came. They are the legal enforcers. So the legal system has these rules. The school system has these rules like that. The zero tolerance. I mean, like, what does that even mean? Who let that get into the school? It's all right. How come we don't have zero tolerance for the teachers, right? Well, we ain't got none of that. Zero tolerance for the principal. So I'm like, no, for the superintendent, for them school board members. Yeah. None of that is the case. We had a school board member here brought a gun to a school board meeting. Oh, yes. So Zena's telling me it was a long time ago, so I don't paint APS. But I'm saying, no. That guy, he ain't go to jail. He ain't in jail.
Yeah, but your kindergartner who brings a butter knife is getting expelled.
Yes.
Zero tolerance. Zero tolerance never made sense to me in general. So
we could, the restorative stuff works for all that. Once we start looking at how come we got these rules for punishment every time you act out? but I don't see no rules that's being evaluated in terms of what are the steps you go through to help a child that demonstrates acting out behavior. So I come to school and you nasty, right? You know, I see that you, well, not nasty, I'm sorry for not using a nice word. I see you wearing the same clothes 2 days in a row. And we just let it go. And I'm saying, right, no. Hey man, what's going on? Maybe we need to get a washing machine in school. I don't know. What's the solution? Because now if you don't have anything else, then that's, hey. But what becomes, so here in Atlanta, at the thrift stores on Tuesday, they have Dollar Day. So I'm saying, man, you want to PBIs me? Take me to the thrift on Dollar Day. There you go. No, I'm good. So that's what I had. Now we did something, you just spent out $20, I done got $20 worth of stuff. Bam, okay. That's the thing I want to see. And those should be the evaluation tools. I think instead of how many kids, if this kid did this and I put them out or suspended them. Or better yet, now what's funny to me, the way you know it's a trick is now that money is being connected to these students. Oh, we coming up with other options, baby. They got in-school suspension. They creating academies and academies and doing all type of things. Yeah, we're gonna help these students. And what we're gonna do is they won't go through the hall except for lunch. They'll be in one classroom all day like they're in elementary. And so I'm like, right, okay, yes, this is helping. But money's on the table, and if I can do this till December, school got more money. And I'm saying, help. So if we can't do it, shoot them to the charter, shoot them to wherever. But let's get the help that they need. And so that's how I know. Go ahead.
I was just gonna ask along those lines. So, what have you seen in your experience of the success rate of restorative justice? Like, I know in the criminal justice system we talk about recidivism, but also in schools. Like, what kind of success rate do you see with a program like restorative justice rather than the punitive programs that we've seen? You know, in the past.
Even when it's done sorry, fights go down.
Mm-hmm.
Decrease. I was saying the suspensions go down. All misbehaviors go down as soon as they started. Teachers, in terms of teachers having more, less stress coming into work, that they it's more pleasant to work here. All those things happen every time. And I'm saying, let alone if it's a real, so the real, when it's fully in effect, like when you say, hey, I'm doing check-in with them, the impact is your school or your room become a sanctuary. So those kids will graduate and come back just to holler at you. And they could be in trouble. They'll come back and talk to you. All of that. That's what happens when we do it. And we see it and the thing that I like is that power structure of the principal is like, so your school can be good or bad if you get a good or bad principal. When you have the restorative justice program operating, the principal comes and get in with that. And it don't change just because your leadership changes. So that's the thing. So now teachers don't have to be afraid that the program is going to change because the principal isn't behind it. The community, all the parents, all the kids, the parents of the kids you helped are going to say, we want to keep this. And what can we do to keep it? So, I mean, those are the results to me, let alone kids staying in school, suspensions going down, all that. As soon as we pulled out of the school, the kids stopped listening in class. So I'm saying that's what you see is soon when you're doing so, when you're running a restorative program, the school won't even appreciate it. But let you pull out and no one is doing that, then all of a sudden they have no control over these kids. And if you were working with them ones who was in trouble, that's where it's like, now we back to the school to prison pipeline. Because you kept this kid calm. They called you when they couldn't handle him. You talked them down because y'all had this connection. So that's what you see with restorative justice in place. This kid loves somebody at that school and believes that person loves them. And you can come into a violent scene and it'll stop you. So that's it. That's what you see. And like I said, I love it anyway because I don't like stuff being controlled from the top. I don't like that. So that's what you see.
We got a question. It says, what programs does Iron to Iron offer to help boys and fathers in the school?
So we run a program, Pawns to Kings is the program that we run with the kids. And the fatherhood program is Manhood to Maturity. Oh, the whole family too. Yes. But she's telling me not to do that. I'm not supposed to read the note. So yes, I should be working with the women, but I don't. So what we do is come in and build up the boys and help them begin with Pawns to Kings to learn what's expected of them. Right? So a pencil. So we all know that a pencil, whatever it's worth, they always tell me, oh, dime, a nickel. I'm asking them, how much would you give me for this? Nothing. So I said, what's the purpose of a pencil? And they like, you don't know that? It's not a question. Do I know it? Tell me it. It's to write with. I said, bingo. What you and a pencil got in common? They looking dumb. And so I said, right. The pencil got a purpose. You should have a purpose. Do you know that purpose? So if you coming in here and you don't know it, now why do you need to meet with us? Because when I come in, I get the other fathers. They go through their background checks, and we come in and talk to the guys about character development, social emotional learning. So that would be the program for the men to go through it first, then for us to come back and teach it not only to our kids, but to the kids in the school that's having problems. So that's what Pawns to Kings can change names. I do it at one school where in the chain, Martin Luther King is the school at the top of the chain. So they young kings. And so they go all the way up the line with that. And so it doesn't matter if the kids can pick a name as far as I could care, but it's who comes in and talks to them about respecting each other, and who goes to their games with them, who do the things that that a father's supposed to do. And yes, I'm open to women having the same things for them to do it too. But I'm just saying, when they have basketball games, when they're in the spelling bee, when they're in the award ceremony, when the teacher wants parent conference, you come. And you spend time there. You help with homework. That's what the program Pawns to Kings does. And then the Manhood to Maturity is what develops the men so they'll know how to react to the kids.
All right, Jorge, any closing questions you have?
No, I think it's been an awesome conversation. Thank you so much for talking to us for the last hour and almost an hour and a half now, right? So it's been an awesome conversation, and the more I learn about restorative justice, the more I love it. The more I think we should definitely be doing these circles, building these communities, and building that safety net so kids can feel safe in our schools, and kids can start, getting to the process of learning without having to fear, all the other stuff that's going on. So thank you so much for coming on and talking to us. I like I said, the more I learn about it, the more awesome I think it is.
Yeah, man. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, we appreciate the stories. Absolutely love hearing stories. I can listen to people tell me stories all day. all night. I love it. And then when you bring, like I said, when you bring the abstract to the concrete, talking about the Fruit Loops and the pencil, those are the things that stick with people. Like that's something somebody can take who listens to this podcast later, who's listening to it right now in their car. Who goes, hey, I could tell my kids, how are you going to be like a pencil? What is your purpose? And then you talk about that. So for me, like I said, I love that. There's always nuggets when you talk to people and you find out what they do. And then the fact that you're out there changing kids' lives, you're doing what the rest of us educators are doing out there. And your heart's in it for the right reason. So we appreciate you, and we appreciate Zena for lending you to us and hooking us up. We appreciate you very much. So thank you very much, and everyone who's watching,
Yeah.
have a good evening.
All right. Take care.
All right, record.